Tableplant podcast.
Hi and welcome everyone watching and listening. This is the 6th episode in a series of podcasts. My name is Merel and I'm a second year student here at Graphic Design Artes Arnhem.
And my name is Melissa and I'm also a second year student at Graphic Design Arnhem. You've never heard me before. I'm a co-host for one episode.
Yes, and the guests invited for today are Sjoerd and Simone Trum. A very warm welcome to you guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have stalked you a bit beforehand, so we will now introduce you guys by some facts we found on the internet. We do have to say that Sjoerd, you were very anonymous on the internet. We couldn't find a lot about you.
Yeah.
But I think, Melissa, you can start with Sjoerd.
Yes, what we did find about you is that you made a silkscreen for Tamo Tanima in 2015. For an album you made, and it's called Engel, or you can also say Angel. And 8 years ago you made a work called Yesterday Copy Culture. It's about Yesterday is a stop motion that was hand copied, and it was about music copying, and some people find it very creative and other people are a little bit against copying already existing work. And you also studied at Graphic Design Arnhem, also here in this department. And your graduation project was about silk screening together with the first year students. And well, we couldn't find any social media of you, or you have a very secret name. And you were a very big fan of Sylvester Stallone and the movie Rocky. And you like to listen to Shaggy.
I've experienced that, Shaggy. Yeah.
Do you maybe have anything to add?
Yes, I do. The reason why you cannot find a lot of me is because I'm really not into social media. So that's also when you are pretty difficult to find. Not a specific reason. I'm just really not into it. Basically, I'm really a person who has to do things manually, look people in the eye. Look at work when the person is sitting next to me instead of looking on screens and seeing everything from a distance, basically. So that's why it's difficult to find stuff from me. I used to have a website and that had some more information, but I took that off long ago as well. I think there were some like photographs with me in a blouse and a suitcase.
Yeah.
That was also my graduation project. In general, a lot of screen printing on location with DIY screen printing techniques, stuff like that. Also international. So but I think that sums it up roughly.
And where internationally?
It started with the graduation show from Artes. There they asked me to go to London to do screen printing at usually comic festivals. Which I also like a lot because these are all people that are all working manually, or at least in a large part of the process, and then usually it becomes digital when it's processed. But they are people who appreciate this technique like screen printing a lot because they are familiar with it in their own design, or they had some work made like that. But in London, they asked me to come to Denmark, and in Denmark to New York, and that went on for a while. But at that point, I had to think about getting paid as well, which is something a lot of people run into, obviously, because it's a lot of fun and you feel really honored about I'm not making enough money with this to live, because I also want like a basic income for myself, and that was really difficult. So then I started working here, basically. So I can do a lot of screen printing. I'm not doing projects for myself, but I can use my knowledge to help students that are really looking for what they want to do, how they want to do it, to get them to the level they want. Because I'm good where I'm at right now in this like school teaching environment.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. And then we switched to what we found about you, Simone. In contrast to Sjoerd, you are more active online. You currently have 98 posts on Instagram, 311 followers and 193 following. You also studied at Graphic Design Artes from 2004 until 2008. And after that, you did two summer school typography workshops, one in London by Fraser Muggeridge and one in the Netherlands. And you were also a guest teacher at the HKU in 2011 and a workshop teacher in Los Angeles at the Otis College of Art and Design. After that, you were also a workshop teacher in Arnhem Artes and at the HKU. And you currently are the co-owner of Team Thursday together with Loes van Esch. And Team Thursday is a Rotterdam-based graphic design studio that exists for 10 years this year. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And of course, we know you now as a teacher in typography here at Artes, which you have been doing from 2016 up until now. Do you have anything to add?
No, that about sums it up. I think the first summer school was in Italy, not in the Netherlands, and that's actually, it doesn't matter really, but it was a really important 2 weeks because there Loes and I really got to work together. So the 10 years that was the start was there, and now we're already quite old and saying to each other, oh my god, are we already doing this for 10 years? Yeah, it seems so. But you were quite accurate with the rest.
Yeah, and is that also where you and Loes got to know each other better, or did you know each other before that already?
Yeah, we were in the same class here in Arnhem. So we already were friends and we knew each other quite well. We both knew from each other that we never wanted to work for a boss. But at that time we thought, well, we are so different, this will never work. But then, in the end, of course, if you're two persons who are totally the same, then you shouldn't work together because you don't have anything to add. And I think we found out in that summer school that we really, really matched and we had the same things that we thought were important. I think that's the most important, that you have kind of the same ambition. And that's why we started to work together from there.
Yeah. That brings us to 4 questions we have now about how did you end up here. Sjoerd already explained a little bit about it, but how did you end up here in Arnhem at Artes, the podcast?
For me, it was really difficult also to learn by text. So I had to do my course to reach the HBO in a different way than most people. So I went from Belgium, VMBO, MBO, HBO, all in graphic design or something related to that. Because I only learn with my hands, basically, and by experience and not by reading or talking about it. So in this school, I also found out that by doing that, it is possible to make a living as well, a decent one for me, because when I graduated, researched this whole screen printing technique a lot. Walter, my colleague, who is not here now because he had surgery, so he will be off for quite a long time, but he will be back eventually, was doing all this by himself, helping the students, keeping the workshop running. And I saw that, and I realized that when I graduate, my workshop will be gone. That's also where my own project came from. But I also asked Walter, if you need any help, I know everything there is to know about screen printing, so let me know. And he was thinking about it, I'm getting older, blah blah blah, so it's good to already start teaming up with someone who can take over when he's gone. And that went pretty fast and pretty quick, and that has been 7-8 years ago. So now still enjoying it a lot, still doing what we do, helping students, inventing new stuff, complicated, making projects, everything. So yeah.
Thank you. And what about you?
How I ended up
Here
in this room.
Yeah.
Well, I had a rough morning. No, when we worked for ourselves, we always kept in contact with some teachers. Yeah, especially in the beginning, we're really searching for that. Yeah, that part when you graduate and you start from there and you want to figure out what you want to do can be quite. You don't know where to start, and then we talked with teachers like Hansje van Halem quite a lot, and also other graphic designers, and with Thomas Castro we always kept contact. And then in 2016 he asked us to teach here, which was, for me, it's really part of my practice, of my graphic design practice. It's just not that I'm making something, literally, when I'm teaching, but it feels really like an extension for me that's quite important also. That influences also my work and the other way around. It was super bizarre also in the beginning to be on that other side of the classroom, because I was also like, oh, that's what, when you're a teacher you have to do all these things and manage all these things at the same time, but at the other hand also having an understanding for the students maybe, because I was there too. So that's how I ended up here.
Really nice. And we can move on to the next question. Do you know each other? And if so, like before the podcast, and if so, how do you know each other?
I think we know each other mostly by the course, like the screen printing parts of your assignments. But it's I think the first time was, but I don't know for 100% sure, that I went to the classroom to tell everyone, like, if you want to do like big screen printing projects, please let me know beforehand. Because it was really nice, because there were a lot of people coming into the studio. I want to screen print this, I want to screen print that. But a lot of teachers were doing that, but sometimes, among each other, you also don't always know, at least I think, what the other teachers are doing. And there I introduced myself, like, I'm Sjoerd, I'm the one who's helping all the students. And from there on, a lot of teachers also came into the workshop, and like before the assignment was given, we have a little talk, we have a clear plan. All the students come in, and you as well, so that you can also walk around the screen printing studio, and then you talk a little as well. And I think that's also a couple of years already.
Almost from the beginning, I think, where I made the mistake to ask all the students to make a poster on A0 printed, screen printed, and then you stepped up, and then indeed.
Interesting. And we were also wondering, what did you want to become when you were younger? Were you always focused on this profession, or was it something totally different?
I wanted to become a lawyer when I was young. I can't really remember the reasons, other than that I found it really important to keep people out of jail who shouldn't be there. I also quickly stepped away from that, because also at my high school it became to me more and more clear that I was just focusing more and more on the professions where I could add a visual aspect to what I was making, and not only simply studying. And then I thought maybe I can change some things in the world by doing something else. And then at that time I thought graphic design could be a good way of trying to do that.
And you?
For me, it has nothing to do with graphic design, but I always wanted to be a professional basketball player. But the reason why was that I could buy a house for my mother, because they all have a lot of money, but of course in the Netherlands you have no chance at all of getting a profession from basketball. I used to do that for 13 years, and at the end also at a national level. But then I was training, and I talked with my mother, and I was thinking, this is a point where you have to think, am I going for this, or am I going to find something I can actually make a living from? And then of course I chose the safer option, and that was doing what I also liked, and that was drawing, painting, illustrating, and that led me into this direction.
Two completely different professions.
Nice. What was your first job ever?
I was working at the McDonald's.
And you're vegetarian right now, right?
I'm not right now anymore, because I had some health problems because of that, but at that time, definitely not. But it was just simply, I was born in Brabant, and it was just the only place where you could work as a 15-year-old person.
Mm-hmm.
So I still know that it's quite nice actually how much of a system that kitchen is, because I still know how to flip that burgers and flip that buns, and it's very systematic. But I also quickly quit.
Exactly the same thing. I also used to start at McDonald's.
Really?
with mopping the floors, because as a 15-year-old I wasn't allowed behind the register, like to work with money. I think when I was 16 I was allowed to go into the kitchen and also do the same thing. Yeah. I think 2 years, something like that, and then I went to Eindhoven to go to the graphic school, and then it was just too much to stay there. But that's funny.
Yeah. You also started at McDonald's.
Oh, really? I worked there for 5 years.
Whoa.
And eventually went for crew trainer to not be in touch with the products anymore, because I also became vegetarian.
Yeah.
And to only like train the new people to work with the meat. Yeah. So yeah. So very funny to hear. Yeah.
So from McDonald's we go to the first category. We have 4 categories, and the first one is the workshop field. I will grab a question. What do you love most about having such a diverse combination of art field disciplines in one school?
For me is that you have a lot of different challenges, because a graphic designer usually, not always, but a lot of times wants to keep it flat somehow. The printing projects, product designers are all three-dimensional, big, architectural, wanted to do like really small detailed model stuff that is impossible to screen print, and then finding a way to get it done, like a really tiny like traffic sign or whatever. And fashion design is really big, textile challenges, silk that came from wherever, only one shot, but something that has never been screen printed before. So this diversity is something that also keeps me here probably till I retire, because every day is completely different. You can never expect what you're going to get.
Oh, I think really that is for the students super nice if they come in contact with other students who have very different mindsets and very different skills also. And if you can have a peek into what that is, and if you could use that too, or also when you graduate, it's very nice to have a practice if you want to work for yourself, where you can work together with people from different disciplines. And if you already meet them here, then that could be a very good base for a collaboration later on.
Definitely. I will pick the next question. Some students find it very stressful experiments to go to a workshop. What is your advice or golden tip for those students?
Yeah, just have a talk with us. Just experience that we're also just regular people that are very approachable. Even though the workshops are loaded sometimes, we always have room to talk to you or explain to you. Like, if you send us an email, we can make an appointment, then we can sit down nice and relaxed. And that also asks from you that you have like a drive just to get what you're here to take, basically. And if you're only waiting, then other people will go before you. It's not that we do fashion design like more than graphic design or anything. So everyone is as welcome. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that also took the stress away for me, that I just went there and talked to you about the project, and you can really discuss something like that. It's really going there, and after you've been once, I think it's already a relief for the students.
Yeah, definitely.
And also, hopefully, I also remember your project, but we can also give you the feeling that you're not stupid, because even though you think that every question you ask, you're ashamed if it's not, because you're at a art school, you have to be like a really interesting designer someday, but we don't care about that. We're only interested in what you want to make and how we can get that to the highest level possible, preferably by asking dumb questions so that we can work with that. Because if you already know everything, there's nothing for you to gain.
Yeah, and also I think if you go there with a more open mindset and not thinking like, I want to make this and this only in this way that I thought of before, that can be quite hard. And the nice thing about screen printing or laser printing is that it can also, it can give you some surprises. And if you can then work with that, then you might be even able to use that technique even for the better.
And also when you're still in a concept phase of your project, by having some ideas and talking to us really fast, we can already tell you like this is not possible, or this is better to do this way or that way, or we can get you in contact with someone who's a specialist at this or that. Or well, most people, and that's a shame, come to us when everything has been discussed with the teacher, it's like ready to produce. Then you have no time and no room left for getting it to that extra level. That's a shame, because the earlier you do that, the more we can help you.
Yeah. And related to that, we have a question from the Instagram. Do you two have good ideas for to integrate technical skills into, for example, the type lessons, experimental based?
The first years, typography is also I find it very important to also work mostly analog. Because then, you can really focus on the letters and what you want with that, and not worrying yet about making a perfect typeface in glyphs or something like that. But what I would love to do with Vera from the site, we talked already for a long time, like if we could do a collaboration, me and her, that is focused on typography, but then with her technical skills, and where we could make variable type or I don't know, some other setup in that way, because I think for everyone that would be very interesting. So if there would be a room for teachers to also collaborate in that sense, I think that would be very nice.
I also spoke to Hendrik Jan about he and I wanting to set up some, because there is already a type club. I'm not sure if it still exists now. Some of them have graduated, but I think they passed the torch. But he also wanted to do that for like a print club, that you can, regardless of your year you're studying in, that you can just investigate screen printing also after hours, like past 5, maybe one day of the week I can be there as well, and in the other days you just have the freedom to try out, work with inks, see what happens, and then we can discuss it once a week. Same as the type club basically, just a free spot to do whatever you want, nothing course related.
That sounds really interesting.
I think they were also talking about maybe a book club or a publication club. It might be really nice to collaborate that.
Yep.
And it also sounds like one big thing that can also work together. Like the type club can also be like silk screened or and book binded, and so I think it's one big.
This type club already did that. Also, that they had like a project. I think they also did the typeface that's on the glass. And that was also something they came by to screen print on clothing. They were really proud of what they made. So it's really nice to see.
Yeah, it was for the signage of the open days last year. Yeah, that was really cool.
Yep.
What was your favorite silkscreen project or method, and what do you still want to try?
It has been a while since I've been silk screening for my own, for myself. And I'm one of these, graphic designers who always wants to keep it very flat. So I would also love to screen print on fabrics and see if I could make some type of installation out of that, or more like architectural elements with that. I think that would be, for me, very nice. It's not super experimental, but for me it would be.
For me it was a project I did with Joost Zwarte. He's a really famous Dutch cartoonist. He introduced the klare lijn, which basically means the way Tintin has been drawn. Everything has the same thickness, every line, and if not, it's just in the background, basically. But when I just graduated, I went with him and all the most well-known illustrators of the Netherlands to France. That was really insane. I think it were like 10 or 15 illustrators who the concept was that they were making drawings related to what was happening that day, like from news, articles, stuff like that. My friend and I had to screen print it in an amount. So from 15 illustrators, about 20 posters each, exposed on my do-it-yourself screen printing studio in a basement somewhere in France for a week. So we had like 15 times 7 times 20 screen prints. So we were completely exhausted. But the nice thing was it started really quiet. And then people saw these posters, so they saw a poster of Joost Zwachte, and he's a guy that people stand blocks and blocks in a row to get a single sketch of him. They were ripping it off the walls, and these posters were glued against the wall, so people were really trying bit by bit to take them off. So we had washing lines behind us with one of each designer presented so that you can walk through them. We needed people from security because there they were also trying to steal all these posters. News, media, everyone came there and you're just graduated, just trying to work as hard as you can to get all these posters done. But in the end it was really nice because my friend and I were on all the news channels there, on the newspapers, and all these famous illustrators were sitting in the back drawing in the shadow. And we got all the attention. But I've never ever done something like that again. Because that was burnout, something in 1 week, intense. But it was really nice, and also to get to know these people.
Yeah, that's super nice. Then we move on to the next category, artes. This is also a question from Instagram. Did your design practice change when you started teaching? And if so, how?
Ooh, it's a good question. In our studio, we are also a lot of the time working on projects with deadlines that need to be finished, and where sometimes you just don't have that much time to really explore very well. I don't know. I would love to start with very different concepts and then explore every concept as far as I can, just not only for that assignment but just also for our own sake, to see where that takes us. There's not always that time, and then here I think it's always very lovely for me to see that amount of time that can be spent, of course, on a process and on a research, on trying and failing and trying. And that mentality for me, it's very nice to always be surrounded by here. So that's something that I really take with me back to the studio. Yeah.
This one is also from the Instagram, I think. Yeah. What do you think is missing in the GDA in this current time period?
Yeah, with some students we've been talking about having a book fair or a bookshop, and I think that's something that I can really, I would really like to see, because I think it's also very nice to make something not in an edition of 1, but also to experience what it is to make something in an edition of 20. That you can also do other things with each edition or not, but it's also a design choice, I think, and also to feel like that you can really spread also your work, and you don't have to wait until you graduate and become a serious designer or something. But and also seeing what other people are doing, being able to buy that or to exchange that, I think that would be very nice. Mm-hmm. And I think the Instagram could need a visual boost. But that's more.
The logo also changed, right?
Yeah. Yeah, because when Thomas left, he took away that he designed the previous one, so he took that with him. Yeah, this one is made by Jankuhn. But I think it could be nice to think about how an identity could also be something in transition, or how the students could add to that, or yeah.
Why did he take it with him?
Yeah, because for him that felt like there was also a representation of what of his ideas about GDA and what he what he wanted to set up, and that's why he thought, that's really part of that ideas, and I don't know what's gonna happen when I leave, so I just take that with me.
I don't know. Yeah, obviously. But
Is there, from another perspective, is there something you would like to add, if anything would be possible?
Yeah, I also like what Simone also said, that you have more often like a physical something there, like something that is finished, and not always like a sketch that gets improved to another sketch and another sketch and another sketch, but you have to say, okay, I have to finish a book now, and it has to be so many times, so that also makes it easier for you to just say, okay, project done, next project. And indeed that you have like a place where you can also buy it, that you can also maybe finance your study by selling your work or some copies of your work. I think that would be really interesting. Because also screen printed work, I always tell this at the beginning of the year, like print t-shirts, print on paper, even if it's just a sketch for you. Everyone wants to have that. Family, friends, doesn't matter. You put it on your Instagram, Facebook, whatever, and it's gone. Everyone who I said that to and who actually did it, sold everything. Some of them have like a clothing shop now because it's so easy to also just make some money, and there's nothing wrong with that. And we even help you to get the best quality possible.
True. Yeah, that was also my experience. I did something with chickens on socks for Open Lab, and then I posted one picture, and all my friends were like, I also want chicken socks. So it was really like, oh, I didn't even think about it in that way, but it's.
And it's so easy for you to do that.
Yeah.
Like, and when you graduate, that will become a lot more challenging because you simply don't have all these facilities to your immediate disposal.
Yeah. And talking about finalizing projects, this question is about the schouw. It's a small throwback. Like, how did you guys experience the schouw or assessments when you were studying here?
For me, it wasn't so good. I also had Thomas mostly to thank for my graduation because I was really struggling with getting my interest through a department that was more digital every year, basically, at least in my opinion then. So all the things I was presenting had to be like, I had to change the world from my perspective to let the project be good enough to graduate. And Thomas said like, no, what do you want to do? Screen printing, go for it. I don't think go. And then in the end I had like a pile of rubbish for everyone that I graduated with. But for me, this was something I could make the same things with as the expensive machines in the studio. But a lot of teachers that weren't involved in this process saw this and they're like, old-fashioned, blah, 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 blah. And some of them, like Vinka was really into it, Thomas was really into it, and the rest was like, I don't even know with what grade I graduated. I don't care, to be honest. Because when I graduated, you step into the real world, and then everybody wants to see what you're doing, everybody wants to have it. But because you're in such a closed environment, you're only insecure about if it's good enough. While most people that are in the fourth year make such nice things that someone outside of this context can never ever make. When you have your final exam, you're still like insecure, but then you get this little document that says you've passed, and then everyone likes what you're doing, and everyone is less like critical about what you're doing, and you feel a lot more freedom also to just go with it. That's how I experienced it. It was also because it was completely different of what other people were doing, which was making a book, making something really like finished. I basically graduated with something I still had to start with, from my point of view.
Interesting. And how did you experience the schouw?
Of course, as stressful, like all the students now. But also as a really nice moment where we could interact with the teachers. And also the drinks afterwards, having dinner afterwards, that happened more, like also after class. That were also the moments where you got to talk about other things, and not only about the assignment, but really about design or other topics. And I felt quite a place also in the school. I also feel like I learned and developed myself so much afterwards, because for me there was always a lot of space in the assignments for development of the concepts. And then this part of visualizing it, maybe I just started too late, or I don't know. When I graduated there was more, I don't know, I just focused on that also more and developed that more. That was also quite a contrast.
Yeah, thank you. And from that we will move on to the third category, more personal questions.
I can pick one? Yeah. I will pick the first one. How do you keep moving boundaries for yourself? And we asked this question because you sent in a quote by Sylvester Stallone. I will read it now. Very nice. It's not about how hard you hit, but it's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward.
Yes.
Yeah, that was nice and powerful, right?
Yeah.
So, with that in mind, how do you keep moving?
My opinion, also by what I said, is not only like workshop related, but it's also like sports related. I really like to keep on pushing. If you know how something works, that's fine. You can use that whenever you want. But then there has to be something new you want to invent, or you want to help someone with, or something that is not possible to get it in here. And every time that has worked, you're really happy, but that happiness also fades away with it like being finished, basically. So by achieving something and then looking for something new, whatever it is, wherever it is, that's something that keeps it interesting. And that's also what I earlier said about all these different courses. That's just the way it is. You have to, and as a teacher, I think that's also the same. Every class is different. Every student is different, so you'll get new challenges every single day. And I'm an absolute, like, over-the-top Sylvester Stallone fan, but what I like about his, like the Rocky movies, for example, I have to talk about this for just a few seconds, is that he made these movies by himself. Basically, all the stuff that happens in these movies are accidents. So there's a scene where he's running, and someone throws an orange at him, but that was because he was running through somewhere. He had no permits to run to a market, but all these things became something really iconic in the end. So also he had so many people saying no and stuff like that. I am always really inspired by looking at that and also knowing the story behind it. Even so much that when I'm ill, like physically ill, if I look at these movies, one day and I'm better. That's how deep it goes.
This is like a medical...
Yeah, it's like a recipe for illness.
Yeah.
No, but like, that's something really personal to me, but like this quote like sums up this whole like need of pushing boundaries to see how far you can go, like triathlon, stuff like that. It's all long and all, you cannot do it right now, but if you have the right training, you can do it then, hopefully. If you can do it, there's another step, and so on.
Okay, now just for the people who are not watching, everyone is looking at me and I'm really thinking hard how to top this metaphor because I...
You can't.
No, I can't. I'm just thinking about this orange now all the time. But yeah, just for me it's also very much going out of the studio and seeing things. Like I'm not the type of designer who can get everything out of working by making behind the screen. Really, looking at different things, but really not graphic design per se. But also, performance artists, movies, just talking to people. And I think for me it's always nice to try to get in my work what my personal interest is also, because there's a lot of space actually to put that in. So now I'm sewing a lot with the sewing machine, so I'm already thinking like how can you incorporate something like that in an assignment or in a presentation in the studio or something like that.
And then, what is a weird hidden talent of yours?
I'm very flexible. I can touch the ground with my fists without bending my knees.
Is that also a Sylvester Stallone method?
Not really. No, I wish I could do the things he can, but no. And I can juggle with 3 balls.
That's quite impressive.
Yeah.
Well, maybe I should answer the next questions first, because always then for me there's nothing left to say. Because for me, I think it's that I pick up on languages quite well, so it's quite easy for me to try to speak other languages or understand it. Yeah.
Wow. Nice. This one is for you, Simone. Your brother, Thomas, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, is also creative. What do you admire most about him and or his work?
That's for him really the sky is the limit. So he already when we were young he was playing a lot with this, I don't know, machines to scoop up a lot of sand, these kind of things. Like on this scale. And now he really, I think for him like the bigger the better. And then when like last time when I talked to him about it, he said like it would be really great if somehow I could make a drawing on the moon with a really big, aircraft, just spraying something in there, or like not spraying with paint, but like, moving around some sand where I can make some kind of tracks in there or something like that. For him, really, all of that is quite possible, and he's also very practical, so he can also really make that happen. So he and his girlfriend, they work together now. They built their own house, and they're always making stuff, and so that's really always great to see and be around.
Yeah, and then going from the moon to the earth.
Yeah.
What is your favorite memory of traveling or a holiday?
You want to go first?
Yeah. I'm just now I have to. Yeah, I traveled a lot to Asia with my husband, and I always very much like it that it feels there like you end up in a kind of play or in a kind of performance. That's in India that's so apparent because you go from rich to old, you cross a corner, and like people have all these different design solutions that you never thought of for fixing a window or something like that. But also Japan, how there there was one time when we walked in the street somewhere and we saw a very nice graphic sign of a cat, and we just went in this kind of basement, and there was this really old lady who really looked like, I think she was very much fan of France. She looked like a kind of Marie Antoinette with this really poofed up hair, super big, and a lot of this kind of makeup from that time, and the whole place was filled with like dried flowers and stuff. And then we couldn't talk in any way together, but then she made us this really big coffees with a lot of cream, and she gave us just candies like we were children or something like that. And when we went in there or when we came out, I really felt like, wow, this was just a really small utopia on 10 square meters or something. Or that's the strangeness of that. Really, being able to look at that with different, also look at your own surroundings then with different eyes, that's so nice to me.
For me, it has always been a dream to have like a camper, like I'm not sure if that's an English word, but like a vehicle that you can travel with. Because I haven't seen that much of the world at all. Some countries, but I've only been outside of Europe once. But I went to the south of France, which is something that a lot of people do. But I had a Volkswagen Caddy, like a really ugly one, that I've built a bed in to sleep in the back, which is like half my size and length. So my wife and I went with that vehicle, like crisscross, like the Route Napoleon, like all the way down to the south of France until we reached like the Alps when we came back. And there was like this, it was just the end of the road, basically. Really big camping sites, and we could just stop there with your vehicle, sleep in it, all folded up. But that whole experience of being limited, just being together, basically the less around me, the better. Just nature and just being there. Experiences like that is something that I really, really enjoy. And luckily that's also in Europe.
What was the most challenging work you got at the workshop? Difficult to print or difficult to execute?
That's a good question. There are a lot of these things, and they all like go one step further. I think it wasn't even because printing on stuff that is like it has to be done right the first time. If not, I'm screwed. Basically, that happens a lot. So you get used to that eventually, and you know that when you do it, you know what you're doing, so you can like predict what's going to happen. But I've made a little machine or a tool basically that you can use to print on the like sliced off side of a book. and it was a girl, I think she was from the teacher's course, but it was all laser cut on the inside, so it was basically, if that goes wrong, and I also had never done that before in my life, I just, with like imagining that it would work like that, like fingers crossed, and see what happens. But she had this really precise text, also really small, like all these things you think like, why are you doing this? But it has to be, so we'll see what happens. All running across the book, like from bottom around the opening side to the top. So how that worked was, book was bound. She did that well, luckily, but then I had to slice the book, feed it into my little tool, screen print it, then slice the other side while the ink was still drying, screen print the other side, and so on and so on. But you also have experienced that books rarely are bound how they are supposed to. So you have like these opening spines and stuff like that. So if she would have had a spine like that, I would have said no, I'm definitely not going to do that. But it went well the first time. So it was a lot of sweat everywhere, and she was really happy, and it also looked really, really nice. Black book, but also black edges with typography on it.
Yeah.
And then a question aimed at Simone specifically. According to you, how many cats is too many? Asking for a friend.
Oh my god, yeah, I'm really this cat person now, so I would say I'm already looking forward to getting a second cat actually. I have one, and she is called Mackerel, like the fish, and she just came running into our studio last year. She was the upstairs neighbors, they got her from some people and they didn't want her, so then they told us, oh, you can have her. And I turned into this, I didn't think it was possible. I never had a pet in my whole life. Now, next year we're gonna move to a new house, and I'm already calculating, like, would one cat per floor be enough, or how much space does a cat need, or so I'm really, if you talk to me again in 30 years, I'm really afraid of how many I will have, actually.
If we'll come to visit you after 30 years, you have this photo album of all your cats.
Yeah, I really think so. Yeah, it's so bad. Yeah, it's really surprising to myself as well, but yeah.
If you could change your job for one day, what would this look like, or how would this be?
Yeah, I would like one day with Sylvester Stallone. Just steal Sylvester Stallone for a day, lock him up somewhere, and just talk to him.
Would you throw an orange at him?
I probably would let him throw an orange at me. So that I have like a bruise that I can tattoo then later on or something like that.
Yeah, then I would like to spend one day with Miranda July. That's an artist from the United States, and I think spending one day with her would be really marvelous.
Would you also steal her?
Yeah, I would try to, but I would probably also be totally silent for one day, because I would be like, shit, okay, I can't say any normal thing anymore, and I will just listen to what you say now.
Then we move on to the ending questions. Do you think that analog work and publications will always remain their value in the future?
Yes.
Me too.
There's nothing more to add. Yeah, there's all this bullshit about like the poster is dead. It's so tiring to hear that. I think a technique is never dead. They've been saying that about painting for so many years, and it's just I think the value will become even bigger.
And look at you guys having handwritten notes on the table.
Yeah, that's actually how I remember it better, so that's why we did that. But yeah, I agree.
But I think that also adds to like reading a physical book. You want to smell it, you want to touch the paper, you want to look at it without having your eyes burning or something like that.
Yeah.
I think it will stay forever.
Yeah, me too. And then the last question is, what can we expect from you in the future?
Yeah, good question. A lot of new students, a lot of new techniques. We're looking at like the official word is tampography or something like that. But it's basically how they print like unprintable objects. They have like a silicone stamp that transfers a design from an etching plate onto a pen or a ball or a whole ceramic object. That's something I'm looking in at the moment to get that in here in a way that students can work with it in an experimental way.
Her name is typography.
It's tampondruk, so it is like a really flexible stamp that can transfer a design onto not flat objects.
Interesting.
Nice. When do you think it will be available?
I'm talking to Inge from the ceramics department if we can, because there are recipes for, you can also order them, but I want to again know this whole process so that we can adjust it and reshape it and however, but till I have it actually working, probably beginning of next school year.
Oh yeah.
And for you?
More
cats?
Yeah.
So horrible.
Yeah, always more cats. And I hope somehow in the studio we're designing a lot of books now, and I also don't really understand how we got to that point. It just kind of happens. But for me, it's very nice to work on a book, but it's also very limiting in a sense. So I hope to do more installations, more bigger projects where you can, as a designer, look at how to claim a space or how to adjust the space. We're working a lot also together with architects, so see where that can take us. I hope to have many more collaborations. And in the end, I hope that I will make a movie sometimes, but that will also take a while.
Nice. Looking forward.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I think it's a wrap. Thank you so much for being our guests today. We really enjoyed this. Yeah.
You're welcome.
Should we do a clap?
Thanks for listening.